How's it going, everyone? This is Patrick with My Tech Living. In this video, I am going to show you how to build and run your own Minecraft server. This is going to be a tutorial based off of the Windows environment. So this is going to be Windows 8, Windows 7, Windows 10. In my case, I'm using Windows Server 2008. So it's going to be relatively valid for all of these, just slightly different. I'm also running mine in a virtual environment. You can run yours off of whatever hardware you have in place. So why might you want to run your own Minecraft server? Well, in my case, I have multiple computers in my house that have Minecraft on them. Because it's a huge pain to transfer all of the files from one computer to another, it's easier to just run a server and connect to that server regardless of where I'm at. Another reason why you might want to make a server is if you have friends that come over, if you want to play in multiplayer with them. Now, on a console, that's easy enough, but for the computer, it's a little bit more difficult. And lastly, let's say you want to play over the internet with your friends or just with random people. You are now able to create a server and run the game online in a public setting with whoever you want. Now that's including if you want to lock it down and create a whitelist or a blacklist or any other form of user control, or if you just want to have it completely open for everyone. So I hope you liked the video. If it helps you, go ahead and hit the like button below, comment if you have any questions, and subscribe. Alright, so let's get right into this. So there's going to be a few files that you need in order to install Minecraft server. I have provided the link below to a zip file that I have provided all of what we will need in. So looking at my screen, going through what we have, first off we have the EULA. This is basically understanding what Minecraft server does and what it will do and what you'll use it for. Next is a batch file that I created called Java version check. In order to run Minecraft server, you need Java on the computer, and a lot of people don't know if they have it. So what I did with this was I created this batch file to basically check to see if you have Java installed. Next up, we have the actual Java installation file. Below that, we have another batch file that I created to go ahead and start the Minecraft server. Below that, we have the actual Minecraft server file that runs everything. And finally, at the bottom, we have the server properties. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually check to see if we have Java installed. So we're going to double click on the Java version check file. It's going to bring up this batch file and it's going to give you the option to check it or not check it. Go ahead and click Y for yes. And in my case, Java has not been installed. It's saying Java is not recognized as an internal or external command. Let's press enter. And now we need to install it. So we have the install file, and this is going to take a couple seconds. I'm actually using a virtual machine right now, so it may take a little bit longer for me, or it might be quicker for me depending on how fast or slow your machine is. There we go. So let's go ahead and speed up the process a little bit. Now that Java has finished installing, let's go ahead and close the installer, and let's go ahead and run the Java version check one more time to see what comes up. So now it's showing we are running Java version 1.8.0_111. So it's saying everything that we need to know and telling us that we have Java installed now. So press enter again and it exit out. So now what we need to do is make sure all of our files are in the correct location. So in the case of my current virtual machine, I have two hard drives. I have my local disk and I have another disk specifically dedicated to Minecraft server. So I have all my files currently on my desktop, but I'm going to go ahead and copy all of these and I'm going to place them on the root of, well, I'm going to add a folder in this. So if I right click, new folder, let's just call this MC server. Enter. And I'm going to open that and I'm going to paste it. So we still have all the files in here and we actually no longer need the Java install file. We can run this as many times as we want. It's going to continue getting the same output. So we know we have Java installed. So let's just go ahead and delete Java. It's taking up space, 60 megs. It's not a whole lot of space, but it's more than nothing. So yes, delete. Next thing we need to do is go ahead and accept the EULA. So let's right click on that and let's open with Notepad. When we're looking at this, it says by changing the setting below to true, you are indicating your agreement to our EULA, and then it's giving you the address to accept it or to read through it and everything else. We need to go ahead and change the equals false to equals true. And then we're going to file, save, and now we can close this. With that, it's now going to allow you to actually run this file, but we don't want to do that yet. Next thing we want to do is open up the server.properties, and we're going to right click, we're going to open, and then we're going to select the program from a list of installed programs, and then we're going to select Notepad. Depending on what version of your OS you're running, whether it be Windows 7, 10, I'm running Server 2008, and you could be running Server 2012. It's going to vary depending on what you have installed and how you have it set up. But in this case, I'm just going to select Notepad and then click OK. I went ahead and edited this a little bit to make it a little easier to understand. Instead of having everything just laid out in a confusing way for people that are newer to, I guess, more complex things like this. Going through this, we need to make a couple setting changes. This is all the different settings depending on what you want Minecraft to have in terms of your server and how you want people to function in it and everything else. Going through everything, let's look at game mode first. Right now we're in game mode 0, that's survival, and below that I specified game mode 0 is survival, 1 is creative, 2 is adventure, 3 is spectator. So I'm leaving that as game mode 0. Next big thing is going to be difficulty. It's currently, the default is difficulty 1, which is easy. I'm actually going to switch that to difficulty 3 to hard. Next option is spawn monsters. So these are going to be the mobs. Think cave spiders, zombies, zombie pigmen, creepers, whatever else. If you want them to spawn, leave it as true. Otherwise, put it as false. I know for a lot of PvP maps, people may not want them. Otherwise, it's entirely up to you. Next option we really need to change is going to be for PvP. So this is set for true by default, and that's basically saying players can kill other players. And then if you set it as false, players cannot kill other players. Set that however you'd like. Next thing we're going to change is going to be the max players. Now the big thing with this is going to be dependent on your upload speed and how much RAM you have in your computer. Next thing we need to look at is going to be the server port. Or actually the server port and server IP. Both of these are going to be how people are going to connect to your server, your computer, and how your network is going to view them so that it knows how to route your traffic, and I'll get to that in a little bit. For now, let's leave the server port to 255.65 and the server IP. Unless you specifically know what your IP address for the computer is and you've set it statically, I would leave this blank. In my case, I have set it as a static IP, so I'm going to go ahead and set that now. 192.168.10.5. And if you would like to look at what your IP address is, you can go down to the right hand corner, one little icon, right click it, open network and sharing settings, and then under the connections with local area connection, click that and then details. So like I said, in my case, I have the IPv4 IP address set as 192.168.10.5. This is going to come into play later on when it comes down to the routing of, well, port forwarding with your router. So next step we want to look at is the level name for the world. In this case, default is world. You're going to name this whatever you want it to be, so I'm going to call this My Tech Living MC World. Simple enough, doesn't matter. Right above that we have allow flight. I forgot this one. False means you disable flying, true means you enable flying. That's more for when you're working in creative mode. Survival and whatever else doesn't really matter. It's entirely up to you what you want to have. Next part, whitelist. This is going to be more for if you want to have it online but you don't want basically anyone joining it, or if you want to limit the users to only users you know. Next option, generate structures. True, obviously structures will generate, false structures will not generate. This is going to be like villages and temples and stuff like that. Next up, online mode equals true. If you want it to be online, set it to true. Why else would you be doing this? Level seed. This is if you know any seeds that you like, you can place a seed right here, and when you generate the world, it will go ahead and use that seed to generate. Next item, at the very bottom, this MOTD. This is going to be a message that displays on the server itself. So I made all the different little configuration changes that I wanted to make. I'm going to go ahead and save this file, save, and that saves all of my different settings into it. Now I'm going to leave this open just so that I know what these specific settings are further down the line. But now that that's configured, the EULA is enabled or set to true, and the Java version check came through. Now you can actually run this file, and the way that we're going to do that is by running this batch file right here. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up so we can take a look. So it's very simple in the sense of it's using Java, and then with these two things, these are what we need to look at. This is how we are going to set the amount of RAM allocated for the actual server. So in this case, the first number is how much RAM is initially allocated and given to it. The second number is the maximum amount. So in my case, I gave it 1 gigabyte of RAM initially with the maximum of 4 gigabytes of RAM. Depending on how many people you have on the server, you may or may not need to give it more or less, and it also depends on your system. In my case, in this virtual machine, I have provided it with, let me see, 8 gigabytes of RAM. So I just gave it 4. It gives me plenty of RAM left over for my system itself. As you can see, I'm not even using an entire gig, but it also allows me to have plenty for the actual game. The next aspect is this D64. If you are running a 64-bit operating system, this is a worthwhile thing to have in here. Otherwise, if you're running a 32-bit OS, that will prevent you from running it. So if you're running 32-bit, remove that. Otherwise, you should be fine. Now that we have everything situated and everything in its place, let's go ahead and run the MC server start batch file. Double click it, and it's going to start up. And it is now generating all of the files down here. And watching the memory and everything else, the memory shot up from roughly 0.7 gigs to 1.25 gigs. Alright, but now we can see this is now running. We can see how much memory we are using, we can see the average ticks. So we're going to test this out on our local network first. Remembering this 25565 port number and this IP address, I'm going to go ahead and go into my local Minecraft on my desktop. So I have Minecraft open now. I'm going to go into multiplayer. I'm going to allow access, and I'm going to add a server. So in my case, the server is 192.168.10.5. I'm going to hit done. So it is now trying to connect to this server. So we will see what this does. Oh, there it is. So, here you go. I am now in the game. I'm in the server. So, it is now running on my local desktop computer, and it is running in here as well. So now we can start to see the CPU usage ramp up a little bit more. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully it can help some of you guys out. If not, maybe you learned something. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to comment below. Otherwise, like the video and subscribe. See you guys in the next one.